Hey everyone and welcome to the video. So, the story of Saints Row. I didn't touch upon it too much in my last video as, it was initial impressions, people haven't beat the story yet, and I didn't want to spoil anything for anyone. And when I do a full-scale review, I'll probably touch upon it even more than I do in this video, but I wanted to quickly talk about my thoughts on the story as a whole, so be aware there will be spoilers for the main story, and pretty big ones. So, just again, be aware, I don't want to ruin the game for anyone, there are going to be spoilers. So, I beat the story a couple days ago, and I've had some time to think about it and really, get my feelings for it. So, it's not awful, but it's not the greatest thing to ever exist. It was okay. So, I enjoyed it for, some of the cooler moments, particularly towards the end, but there were bits of the ending that were kind of, bittersweet. The bits I liked, bits I didn't, and overall it was just an okay experience. So let's talk less so about the actual story of it and plot. Let's talk more about the missions. The missions are pretty fun, they're pretty unique, a couple cool ones. I liked a lot of the missions I played. Some of them did feel a little bit repetitive of just kind of mindless violence, but overall I did kind of like it. I also really liked that I didn't have to sit there and play a ton of activities just to get through. There was definitely an essence of that with Criminal Ventures, but overall there were no activities in the main storyline, and I personally loved that. Talking a little more about the actual story though, and this is where the spoilers are really going to kick in here. I liked the plot for the most parts, but it was a bit predictable. Noali kind of gave off the vibe of like, I'm going to betray you the entire time. It's clear he didn't fit in the group, he wasn't in any of the marketing, he wasn't a part of the Saints in any of the pictures. It was clear that this guy was either going to be a one-off appearance or the bad guy. And, well, we know who that turned out. So, his performance, however, was not half bad. I don't think he was a bad villain, and, it was pretty cool. I really didn't mind the showdown sort of thing towards the end of the game. I know some people had a bug with it, but I didn't, and I actually really liked that part of the ending. But then towards the end of that, there was a kind of part where we're all just sitting there on top of like this big-ass skyscraper thing. And that was okay, I didn't hate that, but there were parts of the last mission I really didn't like. So, there was a bit where you're kind of on this big, like, toy box, toy board sort of game, and I did not like that at all. That really threw off the vibe. Like, I had just been stabbed, buried alive. I had this really cool, by the way, this is the peak of the story for me, this really cool scene where you're walking through some sort of mystical fucking water shit, and I loved that part. That part for me was right up my street of cool things I like in games. It looked super nice. But then it kind of just cuts to this weird ass like board game, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? But then moving past that, it picks up again. And, you go after Noali and you track him down and kill him, and I didn't hate it. There were bits I didn't like, though, and overall, the main issue I have for the story is, well, there's two. Noali's motivations. The whole wanting a better life thing, that was never really told through the story for Noali. He was a badass outlaw. He had his gang, and the fact he wanted, like, a group of friends was really displayed in, like, one cutscene, it feels. And I feel like that bit was rushed, and I think his motivations definitely needed to be more drawn out. And then the other thing was the enemy factions. I had no idea I beat half of them. The idols, I didn't even know when I finished the idols. I killed a few of the main guys, but I didn't know if I'd done them all or not. It seemed to me like the idols were really just thrown away. Sergio, we didn't even get to kill. The only person you actually get to have a sort of like suitable ending with, really, is Marshall, and even then, for me, I just fired the guy. It didn't really seem very satisfying, and more importantly, I felt like the enemy factions didn't get the screen time they deserved. But moving past that, I didn't think the plot for each of these factions was too bad. I like that we slowly just brought down Marshall and replaced it with the other person, I forgot her name, sorry. And I liked how that ended relatively. You could either shoot him or fire him. I liked that I got the option. I like options in games. The idols, I like the whole, like, revenge mission for that whole thing. And, after they fucked with Kevin, you go and just kind of sort them out. And I really like that side of it. And then for Los Panteros, when the sad moment with Nina happened, I did feel genuine, like, anger of, like, I want to kill these guys. But sadly, that was never rewarded. I was angry and some other guy did it. I wasn't obviously angry, but like, you wanted to take them down at that point. You were pissed off at them. You were like, they fucked with Nina, let's take them down, and Noali kills them. and it was a little bit just like, oh, that kind of sucked. But on the brighter side, when it comes to fighting Nawali, I enjoyed it. I liked the showdown. It seemed very cool, might I say. And I really liked the whole ending of just like a sort of like gunslinger battle towards the end. I liked that part at least. So, you know, the story wasn't a complete dumpster fire. Lots of cringe in there, and, you know, I'm not even the biggest person who finds cringy, like, a big deal. Like, yeah, there were a couple of lines of dialogues that I was a bit like, oof. And there was a couple of moments where I was like, yikes. But, I just didn't mind it that much, personally. It was a bit cringy, but I kind of expected that, so I wasn't, like, disappointed or anything. But overall, I didn't mind it. It was a bit short, as well. I actually finished it around the 35-hour mark, but I did a lot of side stuff and exploring in the meantime, and recording for reviews and all that stuff. But overall, I'd say I really did enjoy the story for bits of it, and then there were bits I just didn't like. I don't think it was the complete train wreck some people are making it out to be, but I also just don't feel it was the big, glorious Saints Row story that perhaps we'd have previously, even with games like Saints Row 4. But talking about the characters, honestly, I didn't find them as insufferable as other people, but there were definitely moments where I was like, I want to blow my brains out. There was a part, oh my god, this is so bad. There was a part when it was in the LARPing thing, and Eli was just talking in this weird-ass, like, dialect, and I understand it was for the vibe, and it was funny, you know, it was a fun vibe, and it was just a joke, but I was just there like, what is going on? What is happening? Like, it was a very weird moment, and, you know, I didn't hate it or anything, but the LARPing side, on that side of the story, I did not like at all. Truthfully, the LARPing missions, I could have done with a one-off. It would have been a one-off mission, I'd have been fine, but having 3 or 4 of them already bored me. I just really didn't like it, and, it just wasn't for me. It's something that, coming back to it, I'm hoping to pretty much avoid. I don't think I'll be replaying those missions anytime soon, apart from the playthrough I've already done. And maybe in the future I'll come back to it for something a bit more unique, but, you know, but outside of a funny couple one-liners, I really just did not enjoy that side of the story too much whatsoever. But talking about the characters as a whole and their cringiness, I didn't find it too bad. There was a sense of, and this is one thing I will say, that the old Saints Row's loyalty. It seemed like, you know, whether you like these new Saints or hate them, they were pretty loyal to each other, and I personally liked that. I liked that that was displayed decently. And talking about our boss in specific, it was kind of like the boss took on the Gat role, if anything. The boss was the murdering, killing machine. You know, the Gat may have been in the older games. It seemed like the boss was the completely unhinged psycho killer, and that was kind of different because, I mean, outside of Saints Row 2, the boss was always just kind of, like, different. To Gat, you know, they had, like, their own thing, and whereas in Saints Row 2, they were both pretty unhinged. But in this game, he was kind of just this, like, mass-murdering motherfucker that would kill anyone, and I didn't hate that. Another good thing about the story, if we're trying to list off a couple good points that I didn't mind, is it didn't ruin anything like perhaps previous Saints Row games did. My issue with Saints Row 3's story is not that it was downright awful, even though it was not a good story. It was that it ruined the foundation that laid before it. And arguably you could say the same with Saints Row 4, even though I'd say the third really messed up that foundation to begin with. However, this game hasn't messed up a foundation, it's laid down a foundation that can be improved and fixed upon. And I don't think the foundation it's laid here is unsavable. I don't think these characters are unsavable, and I don't think the whole plot of the reboot is so bad that in a sequel it couldn't be any better. It's just downright awful for the rest of time. It's nowhere near that bad in my opinion, and I think that, you know, whilst not being the best story in the world, the foundation it's laid down can definitely be expanded and improved upon, perhaps in either DLCs or a sequel in the future. I truthfully feel that the story was one of the weaker parts of this game, but honestly, it's not as bad as people say. It was just an okay story for me. So with these little mini reviews, I'm going to be kind of ranking the things out of 10. So to start this off, I'm going to rank the story a solid 5 out of 10. It did enough for me that I wasn't bored and I was kind of invested, but it didn't do perhaps what the other games did in the sense of, like, you know, I was completely invested, I was completely on board, and I wanted to go after the main bad guy. There were parts where I was just kind of doing things to do things, and that was an issue. I'd say it definitely picked up at moments, and that is why it's got, you know, the 5 score. I mean, if there weren't these certain moments that I was a big fan of, again, like that sort of like weird scene where you're walking through the water, and perhaps maybe, you know, the kidnap scene and Nina's car, if it wasn't for these certain moments that I was invested in, truthfully, I probably would have ranked this a lot lower. It's moments like the Nina's car, the Marshall, the kidnapping, the buried alive scene that gave me the hope and excited me the most about this story. And in between those really cool badass moments that were reminiscent of some of the previous games, there were moments that I just didn't like as much, and damn right sometimes semi-boring moments. This isn't supposed to be a video of me shitting on the game, because truthfully, I'm going to replay this story. I enjoyed it enough that it did enough for me. I just don't think it was anything mind-blowing. I thought it was, you know, painfully just okay. You know, I wouldn't say it was downright awful, but it was just alright. And that is kind of where I'm going to leave it. But I hope you did enjoy, and I hope this doesn't ruin the story for anyone who maybe hasn't given it a go, but just doesn't care about spoilers. My opinions don't have to be yours, and I hope that you guys can enjoy the story. I truthfully didn't mind it that much, but what I want to say is, whilst I didn't mind it that much, that's the mindset I have for the story. I just didn't mind it. It was okay. And that does not mean that it's ruined the whole game. It didn't bring down the overall experience too much, it just didn't raise it up much either. And that's why I feel it fits for me at a solid 5. I will say, however, that this has got a solid foundation, and maybe when I rank the DLCs and talk about the DLCs, it can bring up that score with some extra context or extra moments, but for me, the reboot story scores a solid 5 out of 10. So, yeah, I hope you did enjoy, and I hope you guys can honestly just enjoy the story as much as I did. I honestly didn't mind it that much, like I said. I did enjoy bits of it, and there was lots of moments where I was like, fuck, yes. But there were also just some moments where I was like, But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be doing lots more of these. I'm going to be doing the gameplay next, I think, so keep an eye out for that. And then, once I've done all these little mini separate individual reviews, I will be completely discussing the game as a whole and giving a rank, hopefully, out of 10 that I can base off these scores. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you soon.